as we will move on to the men's long jump, and our long jump selection for the team of the decade is Matt Mayer. Matt Mayer, our selection for the team of the decade, as his best long jump, 6.39 meters, the school record holder for the long jump. He was the meet winner at the 2010 Hendricks Invitational in the long jump, one of 3 athletes to break 6 meters in the event, and competed in 10 long jump competitions during his time at UD. So, as we look at our long jump selection, you knew him, you competed with him. Tell us a little bit about Matt Mayer.
Oh, incredible guy. To be fair, I'm biased. It's my boy. We were the same year at UD. He competed freshman year primarily as a long jumper. Successfully recruited him back to the team by the time we came to senior year, and ended up competing in a number of events senior year. High hurdles, relay, jumps, kind of jumped around a little bit more and was able to contribute more points in that way. Great competitor. I think his first love was basketball. I think the javelin photo I saw that we picked out from one of our meets, he was wearing a UD basketball shirt. He always volunteered as a coach with the women's teams, but really great jumper and great hurdler. Someone who scored a conference, I think, in hurdles as well.
So, as we will actually speak to Matt in a little bit, and we'll look at his theoretical data, as Matt Mayer in the long jump, his 6.39 meters, just under 21 feet, would win 7 medals out of 28 for all medals, 0 gold, 3 silver, and 4 bronze, and 0 gold, 2 silver, and 2 bronze in the decade. So 3.9 points, his average point total, and a 4th and 5th median result with a 5th place most frequent result. And so, again, this is, we mentioned at the top, a lot of athletes on the jumps team, 1 or 2 seasons, and he's one that had that bridge in the middle between sophomore and junior year. So, what do you think could have been had he been there all 4 seasons?
I don't know. I mean, our relays were clearly better when he was around, and you saw, a lot of his scoring came from javelin, which I'm sure you're going to get to in a minute, but team all around, a lot more could have been done with him. I know he handed off to me in the 4x1. He was first leg, I was second leg, and I appreciated. I knew I was going to get the baton from him. There was never any worries in my mind. But he also experienced a lot of shin splint issues and was more prone to injury. So maybe it ended up being a good thing that he was fresh for senior year when we had a good full squad around us for conference. But I don't know how much more he could have done. I honestly don't know, because if and I'm sure we're going to get to this in a minute, comparisons. I don't know if we're going to do a comparison or not between him and Garrett. But those were the 2 long jump selections we were really looking at. And the 2 of them were similar in that they both had an average competition level somewhere in the 18s, maybe they oscillate to the 17s or the high 18s. And they both had competitions where they were able to jump up into the mid-high 20s and got a jump. It clicks and everything goes right. And so maybe we could have stabilized his average competition at a higher level if he had been able to compete all 4 years. But I know that was tough on him.
Well, I do have to say I did not actually prepare comparative data for.
That's
Garrett
fine.
and Matt.
I'm just thinking back to it because someone who saw both of them jump and who was on a relay team with both of them. In my head, there's an automatic comparison going on. But those were the 2 names in my mind for the long jump spot, and they were they had very similar jumping careers, around a level down here. But when they had their day, Matt had a higher ceiling.
And so, before we move on, you mentioned the points in the javelin. He's actually, as we've mentioned already, he's one of the 4 athletes on the all-decade team who is selected for an event that he did not win a medal in. the two events he won medals in, he won a bronze in javelin, and he won a bronze in the 4x1. And speaking of the 4x1, tell us a little about your time together on the 4x1 team.
Oh, awesome. I mean, we medaled that year. I know my junior year we didn't have a full sprint squad in 2012, and going into senior year, Matt coming back, Garrett coming out. I think he was a freshman or a sophomore that year. I don't remember. And then Dylan, who we mentioned earlier in the relay section, the 100-meter section. It was phenomenal. But he ran track at high school, knew what he was doing. I never had to worry with a handoff with him. Good teammate.
Well, that's our men's selection for the long jump, as we now move on to the women's long jump, and our women's long jump selection is Helen Onienso. Helen Onienso, our selection for the women's long jump, as her career PR, 4.52 meters, 5 long jump competitions in the decade, or excuse me, the top 5 long jumps in the decade, and competed in 6 long jumps in the 2010s during her time on the team. And so, I'm sure you'll mention this probably, another one of our dual sport athletes, but tell us a little bit about Helen Onienso.
Helen and Shelby came out to the team together, really. They were both same class, came in for basketball, both had track backgrounds and didn't want to give being a dual sport athlete up. Now, granted, being a dual sport athlete for 4 years, they had a couple of seasons that were cut short due to injury. I don't think it ever affected basketball, but coming at the tail end of the year, there were a couple of times where they weren't able to finish. And so I think both of them would say that there were higher highs that they could have gotten to in track. Just that they dedicated to track, but obviously as a dual sport athlete, that's not something they were willing to do. And Helen, I think, far and away our best long jumper of the decade. I know Antonella, we mentioned her earlier as a jumper, is someone who scored in her season in the conference. But I think Helen just saw a tougher conference when she was around. She jumped, I think, a couple of feet further than Antonella. I might have my stats wrong. But
no, and Helen's top mark was much further. Like Antonella, we were looking at compiling the stats. Antonella wasn't even in the top 3 for the decade.
I think Helen just saw a tough jumping conference. I remember looking at TLU's squad, the couple of years when Helen was here, and seeing how tough it was. But great athlete, always brought everything she could, to competitions. But sadly, a couple of seasons were cut short.
And here's how tough those conference competitions were, as her 4.52 meters, her PR, would not have won a gold medal in the 28 years of the SCAC. Does get a couple medals, 2 in the history of the SCAC, silver and a bronze, and one of those medals, the bronze medal, coming in the decade of the 2010s. Her total point average, 0.7 points, with median and most frequent results of 8th place. And so you see from that just how hard of a conference she's going up against, because only 2 medals in the SCAC history. So with barring her injury, and if she had, if not that we could have gotten him sooner, but if she could have had more time with Coach Cato, what do you think could have, how much better do you think she could have gotten?
I don't know. Without seeing the conference results in front of me too, she definitely had a lot of room to grow. But I think she maximized what she could do while she was here. And so that's tough to say, because we would have to transplant her to a different, couple of seasons if we were to try and do that. When we had our strongest, jumps coach of the decade when Cato was around. So that is just hard for me to speculate.
Okay, well, that's our long jump selections, and now to the final set of jumpers for the team of the decade, our triple jumpers. And first, with the men's triple jump, our selection for the team of the decade is Tanner Bruffy. Tanner Bruffy is our selection for the team of the decade, as Bruffy had a PR of 12.42 meters in the triple jump. He scored 2 points at conference in 2013 with a 5th place finish, and he's the only athlete in the decade to jump over 12 meters. And so we see another dual sport athlete, Tanner Bruffy, who's also a basketball player. Tell us a little bit about our triple jump selection.
Coach Gron will sing the praises of Tanner Bruffy. Tanner Bruffy is the man. He was a basketball player first and foremost. In this jump squad, we've said that a couple of times. But we were in the same class our senior year, spring 2013. We had a good squad. We were having a good season. And coming out of basketball, it was then going and talking to him, recruiting him. And the basketball coaches really supported him in this. And like, you're about to graduate soon. You're a hell of an athlete. We want to see what you can do in the jumps. And we knew immediately it was going to be, long, triple, high, to see, exactly how high he could excel, how high he could jump. And we were very proud to have him on the team, at the end of that season.
So our theoretical data on Tanner Bruffy, 12.42 meters. 12.42 meters is coming to 40 feet 9 inches. It wins 1 gold medal in the history of the SCAC, 3 medals total, 1 and 1 gold, silver, bronze, and that 1 gold medal coming in the decade of the 2010s. Average point total, 1.9 points, with a median result of 5th and 6th, and a most frequent result of 5th. And so he actually finished spot on with some of his data, as his finish in 2013 was actually 5th. Mm-hmm. So we've seen athletes who have overperformed their statistics. We've seen athletes who have underperformed. He's right there. It's exactly where he should be.
That year is the median for him, yeah.
So when you look at the theoretical numbers, Tanner, much like Darius, only competed in 2 meets. Mm-hmm. But before I actually ask that question, so Tanner is also another one of the athletes on this team who was not picked in the event. Go figure that I think three of 4 of the athletes who weren't picked in the event were jumpers.
Yep.
So Tanner was another one. His medal came in high jump.
Mm-hmm. He was our other selection behind Darius. He was the next competitor there.
So we, I think 1.78 meters was his mark, just less than an inch behind Darius. But how, knowing all of this, and again, you knew him, you competed with him, I mean, how impressive is his accomplishments, being able to jump almost 12 and a half on literally like maybe a month of practice?
I mean, I've said this for a couple of the athletes in this event group, but he was just a hell of an athlete, and he took it seriously. Coming out as a dual sport athlete, it wasn't something he did all 4 years, like a Helen or a Shelby, or like a Prince, or as we'll get to, someone who did it for a couple of years, like a Diana. But he came out as a senior and wasn't done competing. He just, let's give track a try. Let's see how much more competition I have in me, and took it seriously. Granted, it wasn't a full season. A little less than half. By the time the basketball was over, by the time we got him out to practice, but it wasn't just I'm just going to show up and do whatever. He took it seriously, and it really showed at conference with the amount he's able to contribute to our point total. Great guy, took it seriously. Do I wish we could have had him for more time? Yes, but that's not something that ever would have happened. He really thought about it and considered it in the last couple of months before he graduated.
And I think I don't actually have the stats right in front of me, but I think he scored in either 3 or 4 different events at conference, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was long, but triple and high for sure. I think one of the throws, he really was able to, in a breadth of events, compete with the best of them.
So we see a lot, I feel like we owe an unofficial honorary spot on this team to UD men's basketball for providing us with so many of our selections for the team of the decade. Because we've had Prince, we've had Prince in a sense doesn't count because he was just as good in track. Like he spent just as much time in track as he did in basketball. I mean, he was, I think, 2A TAPS champion.
He succeeded at a high level in TAPS. I don't remember what A, but yeah.
But he was on the basketball team, so it does technically count. So we had Prince, we have Darius, we now have Tanner.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think that's actually it, but still, I think we...
Then we can shout out Helen and Shelby from women's basketball. So
yeah, a lot of... Well, I think we owe, an honorary spot to the basketball program on the track team of the decade.
Gron and Sample's head right here. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
So, as we move on to our final selection, women's triple jump, you probably guessed who it is by now. We've already mentioned her name several times, but just in case you forgot, our selection for triple jump is... Shelby Waldron. Shelby Waldron, our selection for the women's triple jump team of the decade. Her PR, 9.80 meters, and she competed in 9 triple jump competitions during her time here and has the 7 best jumps of the decade. And so, Shelby Waldron, as you mentioned, along with Helen Onienso, our 2 women's basketball players who were a part of the jump squad. They were, for anyone who knew either of them, they were inseparable. They were the two-headed monster. So I mean that affectionately. Don't start messaging me, attacking me if you're watching this, Helen and Shelby. Also have to throw Michelle DeCoud in there too because she was also part of that group. But now we're getting off topic. So tell us a little bit about Shelby.
Well, it's the same thing as Helen. Their careers really mimic each other all through and through, where they came in as dual sport athletes and came in basketball and then track when basketball was done, and had a couple of seasons cut short due to injury, due to needed rest so they could come back in the fall, ready again, and just really proud of the development. Of having them on the team and the character that they brought to the jump squad and the jolt of energy that we always looked forward to in March when basketball was winding down. We knew that we had a jolt of energy, revitalization. Our preseason is done. It's time to get ready for conference. We've got a few meets left, and you see that when the basketball folks are coming out. And Shelby and Helen, represented that with their upbeat attitude to practice.
And so here are Shelby Waldron's theoretical data. So her PR of 9.80 meters is not good enough to win any years of the SCAC. 3 medals overall in the 28 seasons, 0 gold, 1 silver, and 2 bronze. And in the decade, 0, 1, and silver, 0, 1, and 0 gold, silver, bronze. Average point total, 0.8 points, with a median result of 8th and a most frequent result of 7th. Much like Helen, has very uphill battle for Shelby as far as competing in the conference. And just interest, side note, the second best jumper of the decade, Antonella.
Yep. But
Shelby had her by a lot. She had her by over a meter. It's 9.8 to 8.76.
Yep.
So it was as we could speculate how good Antonella might have gotten, but that's a very wide margin she would have had to make up. I mean, a meter is a very long way to go. Not like in high jump where she's 2/100ths behind Helen. No, she has over 3 feet plus to make up.
Easy selection.
So as we wrap up our jumpers and we wrap up our triple jump selection, is there any particular moments that stick out to you at a meet or something where Shelby and or possibly Helen did something that was, just beyond hilarious?
There's no one that jumps out of my mind. There's just a litany of similar types of encounters where, jumps typically start earliest in the day. You got to make sure you have time to get through all of them and all the heats and all the reps, and then typically they're also in a relay or in something else later in the day. It was typically early, and then after that, if they were done, the two of them bouncing around together with whichever other UD basketball players came out that year and were dual sporting with them that year. I remember one year, Panda was I think on the 4x1.
Yeah.
The two of them, Helen and Shelby, are done for the day. Let's just say that day, bouncing around, heckling as we're warming up for our relay, or heckling our girls. They're getting the blocks or whatever. But just like the most supportive, fun teammates to have around. Kept it upbeat. If you've ever been to a track meet, it's very long, and it's really, really helpful with athletes like that. You're done for the day, or you've got 5 hours till your next event, or bouncing around, and having a good time with everybody.
Yeah, some of the strangest conversations I've ever had have taken place in track meets.
I believe it.
But I actually do have a story that I remember. I'll make it brief. So it was at McMurray, my first year on the team, and you know how McMurray schedules those meets. You have a couple of jumps early in the morning, jumps and throws, a couple of jumps and throws around noon. Running events don't occur until like 3 in the afternoon. Mm. So Shelby and I were both in triple jump that day, and we had finished and we were hanging out in camp, and she was telling whoever she was talking to, I think Will McAvoy and maybe Allison Federer, a couple of this small circle of people, just chatting and whatever, and Shelby had said something like, after they announced the results, like, oh yay, I finished 5th. I scored 4 points. I think it was 4 points. Because some meets do it differently. Like conference, 5th place would be 2 points, but I think they were counting the top 8, which I think would have been 4 points.
Depends on the size of the meet.
So she's saying, she was really happy and joyful and bouncing around like you mentioned, and she, yeah, I scored 5 points. And Will says, well, that's more points than you scored in basketball.
Whoa. I feel personally attacked.
But I thought it was hilarious. Like I just happened to be in the right place at the right time to hear this conversation that was going on. I thought it was hilarious. So all right, we'll now go to our interview section where we will talk to former UD track and field long jumper and athlete in other events such as the 4x1 and the javelin throw.
And the hurdles.
Oh, yeah. Did I not say hurdles?
No.
Oh, okay. And the hurdles. Matt Mayer. Matt, how are you doing this evening?
Hey guys, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Doing all right.
Doing
all right.
Doing well.
Awesome.
All right, so first question, kind of the obvious opener, being selected to the all-decade team for the long jump. How does it feel to be part of the best of the decade?
Look, guys, it's pretty cool. To be honest, I've kind of put the UD track days a little bit behind me. It's been quite a few years since I graduated, and put on a few pounds. Don't exercise necessarily as much as I used to, and then when I got notified that you guys were pulling something together like this, it brought back all the old memories, and it's exciting. I'm glad you guys are doing something like this to put together a team, an all-decade team. It's cool.
So what do you remember best about your time on UD track and field?
Oh, gosh. I mean, so many memories. Look, I'm going to put this out there. I didn't run track and field all 4 years. I really only ran it freshman year and senior year. Ran it freshman year solely to do long jump and triple jump, and then senior year was all about javelin and the hurdles. And it didn't matter what I was doing. It was all about the team. It was all about having fun and working hard when it came down to it, and make sure you did well in your events, because obviously track is it's a pretty individual sport depending on your race. Obviously, I ran senior year with Barber in the relays, 4x1 relays, which was fantastic. But hey, when it comes down to it, you're there to have a good time, and as a University of Dallas student, you're there for the academics too. And I thought about playing basketball because I played basketball in high school, but track just had a little bit more flexible schedule and the ability to be able to focus on academics a lot as well. And so that's why I always had some great memories when it came to track, just hanging out with friends. Anytime you got practice and those long meets and those long bus rides, those are fun. It's good times.
Well, so you mentioned long jump. You mentioned the time on the 4x1. So you were selected in long jump, but obviously the medals that you won were the 4x1 and javelin. Take us through that year where you won the medals.
Yeah. So that was senior year. I wasn't gonna come out and play that year, run track and do the field portions of it. But I was talking to Barber and Clinton. Those were my boys back in the day, and they just said, "Look, man, you don't have anything going on in terms of sports. You're getting lazy over there, and I see you putting on a few pounds. Like let's get out and let's do something, man. Come on. What's it gonna do to you?" And so I said, "Okay, why not? I'm gonna go out and see what we can do." It's been obviously a while since I've done anything super competitively, but came out and realized that I had a little bit of quickness still in me. Obviously I didn't have the jump anymore, but I had a little bit of the quickness. So came out and did the open one, which was a ton of fun. And then what's up, Barber?
You're giving yourself not enough credit. You were in the weight room every other day. I saw you playing basketball every third day. You were in good shape. We knew we were trying to recruit you out.
All right, that's fair. All right, I forgot about both. I did try to stay active, but I wasn't in jumping shape. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
I wasn't track and jump shape. And so they convinced me, and they said, "Look, come on out, and it'll be fun." And that's what it came down to. So I did that. Realized I still had a little bit of hop in my step, and went out for the 4x1 and had a great time with that. And then javelin, I actually was not planning on doing it until, gosh, there was a practice, and Will Shavy was kind of our go-to jav guy. He had all the technique down, and it just looked like a lot of fun when he was practicing. And myself and I think Garrett Gustafson, he was literally throwing it around the field, and me and Garrett just looked at each other and was like, "Dude, can we throw that and see how it goes?" And it was so much fun, and we realized we weren't half bad at it, and then we competed in the tournament, and we were actually not bad. We had some good times, so it was fun. That season was a lot of fun.
And so back in 2010, your first season as a freshman, was when you actually set the long jump record, just a smidgen under 21 feet, 20 feet, 11 inches, and 0.75, I think. So just missing 21. What went right that meet when you got that jump, and what do you remember best about long jump?
Yeah, there was actually a lot of things that year. So I told you that I did track and field in high school. I did long jump a little bit in high school, but I was actually pretty horrible. My jumps were awful. Actually, I'm just gonna be honest. It was bad. But it's because we didn't have a jump coach. And that year, when I came out for track that year, I told Dory Madeir, she was our track coach at that time, I said, "Look, I will come out and I will jump for you, but I'm not going to run anything more than a 200. I'm done running 400s. I'm done running 800s. So, but if you find me a jump coach, I'll work my tail off and I will get better." And so that's what she did. She had a buddy. He was a big time jumper back in his college days, and he came. I looked at some of his. I can't remember what his name was, but he was jumping in the 24 feet, 25 feet range back when he was in college, and he just gave me some intense workouts, and taught me just incredible form and key details of what you need to do as a jumper to be successful. And it made all the difference. My jumps went drastically further than they had ever done before. And things like your penultimate step, and you need to know your exact distance going into the meet. It's like don't count your steps when you get to the meet. Forget that. Know what your distance needs to be and go off of it. And then it really came down to coaching, and he was there quite a few times a week walking me through how to do it. I mean, I was sore all the time doing his workouts, and it was great, just the amount of work and prep that he put me through. And then that meet specifically, I remember the wind was pretty strong. I'm not gonna lie to you, the wind was in my favor. There were a couple of other jumpers. I do remember winning that meet. There weren't that many great jumpers though, and it was just fun. It was exciting. I do remember being really sore that day though, because I had put in a really intense workout the day before, so I thought for sure I was going to be terrible. But some reason it ended up working out all right, and the wind, obviously you throw in a little bit of a wind factor, and I guess I flew pretty far.
Well, so you said that the wind was in your favor that day.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. Absolutely.
You're sure about that? Because if you look in the archives, if you look at the official meet results, there was actually a negative headwind that day. So you were actually jumping into wind.
You're full of it. There's no way that's true. There's no way.
You can look, if you don't believe me, you can look it up on T-First.
I bet it's one of those things where it whips around and it's going one way, and then they marked it incorrectly for your jump. Because when it's super, was it one of the West Texas meets?
That was at Hendricks.
Hendricks. So Arkansas, never mind. If it was West Texas, I was going to blame it on the plains. I don't know about Arkansas.
But either way, look, guys, 21 feet, it's not that great of a jump. I'm not going to lie. Like, those guys, if you compare my stats to the SCAC jumpers, I mean, they're jumping 23s, 24s. And so I just did it because it was fun. It was lucky that, in my opinion, that I got that distance that day. I was jumping regularly in the low 20s, I think, that year. But, I mean, it's cool to be part of the team. But, I mean, I was watching a couple of your other videos. You guys got some serious athletes that run some amazing times. So I just feel honored that you guys consider me part of the team. But I don't want to sugarcoat it. Like, my jump wasn't that great.
Well, I guess on that note.
hey, you beat out Garrett. It was in our mind it was you and Garrett for the long jump spot. So make sure to let him know. You can text him.
I will let Garrett know. I know he was going for it. I know Tanner Bruffy was going for it too. He had the triple, I think, right?
Yeah,
He did, yeah.
he had triple and he almost had high jump in our series.
Oh yeah, high jump too. Gosh, athlete. Guy's an athlete.
All right, well, thanks, Matt, for joining us tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks again for having me. Take care and good luck with the rest of these interviews, man.
Absolutely. See you, man. I'm gonna have to visit you soon in Virginia.
Definitely. You're welcome anytime. See you guys.
So that is our Team of the Decade selections as we finish wrapping up this week. Reminder, as we'll show you on screen, our selections for the Team of the Decade. For the jumps team on the men's side, Darius Colvin, Jacob Fink, Matt Mayer, and Tanner Bruffy. Our men's side, and then the women's side, Antonella Escarfullery, Hannah Green, Helen Onienso, and Shelby Waldron. And as we wrap up this week, any final thoughts?
No, I mean, like I said, you see a lot more variety in the types of athletes in the jumpers. There's a lot more discussion as far as close competition as to who we were going to pick, which was fun and very different from maybe some of the other events where it was a little more obvious. Well, like a Jacob with the pole vault. But I'm really excited for the throws as well. I'm looking forward to that.
As we'll have some reoccurring members of the throws team. We have some no-brainers. We had some, well, maybe this could have gone either way. But for the most part, it mostly was pretty easy picks. So yeah, that's it for this week. Join us next week for the throws team, our last team reveal. And then afterward, we're also going to have In the next following weeks, we're also going to have our extra bonus footage. We'll talk about the team as a broader whole and also some more speculative information and shout outs to some athletes such as Colleen Slattery and Ryan McInerney, who were not selected for this team, but other athletes who I think deserve mention and a little bit more exploration about their accomplishments. So, keeping all that in mind, hope you will join us again as we continue the Team of the Decade reveals. I'm Kevin McGurk with
Matt Barber.
and we'll see you next week.